We saying people, it's another episode of the panel. Hey Rob, you see something different?
Wait, bruv, amazing energy. It's a new setup, new surroundings.
Bruv, you see the excellence on this? You see the excellence?
It's amazing right now. Glowing in it, from left to right.
Listen, and just in time for Black History Month.
That's right. That's right.
Nah, but listen, wait. Have they done it yet?
No, have they done it?
Guys, have you done it yet?
No. Have you done it?
Have you done it yet?
Have you done it?
You see something?
I don't even know yet, bro.
Listen, guys.
Yeah, like and subscribe.
Like, subscribe. Like, can you see it right now? Can you see it? Like, literally on your page right now.
Screen,
the
left
little
or right.
screen, the little. See the little white finger there? Click that button there. Click it. You like, subscribe, and share. Like, you know where myself and Rob are. We're on Instagram.
And it's free.
TikTok. Yeah, it's free. Bro, you know what it is, yeah? It's because we're not charging.
I know.
Yeah. So, guys, listen, yeah. We're not charging you to like.
No. Okay, listen, I'm charging you 1p now. Like and subscribe. Like, just...
Yeah, just click the button.
Just click it,
Click the button, man.
2 seconds,
Yeah, literally.
Yeah,
but listen, do you know what? Can I just say, I've got so much pride just being on this panel by such fantastic, experienced Black professionals.
I agree.
But let's start our introduction. I want to start right here in the corner. Can you introduce yourself, please, and your role?
Hi, my name's Jade. I'm an assistant team manager in a looked after children's team.
Let me give a round of applause.
My name's Yurande. I'm an experienced social worker and manager, frontline child protection from MASH, CP, SIN. I've pretty much done it all, really.
Okay. Did you did you the way she said Experience.
Let
me just drop it in you now, yeah. Experienced now, yeah.
Experienced.
Am I right?
Hi everyone, my name's Anita and I'm a team manager in a child in need team, frontline child protection and safeguarding.
Amazing.
I'm finally at the end.
I'm Andra. I'm an experienced team manager. I recently became an author and I'm working as a child protection advisor.
Wait. Right about. You see that? I recently became an author.
An author,
recently.
yeah.
What's the name of the book?
I want to know what love is.
Hey.
Ah, boy. Yeah. Them titles there,
You know what I'm saying? Like, recently became an author. And obviously, you guys, you know who I am. I'm Nana, the social worker, and Rob.
Yes, I'm Roberto, and we'll be here all day,
But do you know what? I thought it'd be good. Do you know what? Because this is the first time we've had a panel of
for a minute,
but also a panel of managers.
Yes.
Yeah. I think a lot of the times, a lot of the episodes that we've done, we kind of talk about, decisions that are being made. And I felt it'd be good for us to kind of speak about, what it is like to be a manager, what does leadership mean? But also, I think Black History Month is Black women, the experiences of being a Black female manager. So, panel of managers, anybody really want to kick it off? Your experiences of being a Black woman in leadership.
Don't be shy now.
Don't be shy. Listen, be vulnerable, be yourselves. But what is it like to be a Black woman in social work as an experienced manager? Everyone's all quiet.
Oh, all right, okay, I'll tell you what. Can I ask another question?
Go on.
Maybe just to set the tone. Okay, what made you become a social worker, and how did you get into your role? What was the journey in a short synopsis for the audience and for me and Nana, if that helps to set the tone? Yeah.
For me, I was managers of some children's centres, and I found myself in core group meetings and making referrals to children's services quite a lot. And I asked a social worker in a core group meeting, I'm thinking about going to social work, what do you think? And she said, don't do it. She went, don't do it, don't go into it. And I thought, okay. And then I looked into it a bit more, and then had a bit of a health issue and was in hospital, and did my application to step up while I was in hospital, and thought, well, just see where the chips lie. If it's supposed to happen, it's supposed to happen. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And it did. And I also, in terms of experiences with family, felt that services could have been involved and weren't involved, and felt that I kind of wanted to be part of something in terms of supporting and helping other people, as well as sort of families, but as well as other practitioners, which is why I wanted to become practice educator, and kind of mentor and guest sort of speaking in lectures and things like that at universities.
Amazing.
You went there?
Okay, so I think for me, one of the reasons why I wanted to go into social work when I did was because of family. So I have an older brother. I don't think I've shared this online, but I have an older brother who has Down syndrome. So through his life, and we're quite close in age, but through his life, he's had kind of social workers in and out for various reasons. And I think growing up, I didn't feel that I felt that there was more that could be done. I thought there was more that could be given, more that he could access, and more that, he could have for him. But when I was younger, I can't say that I entirely knew what a social worker was. And I remember when I was like picking like GCSEs and A levels, I was just picking random stuff. Like I picked Spanish GCSE and English language at A levels. And it wasn't until like my dad was literally asking me like, what do you want to do? What do you want to do?
Yeah.
That he pushed me towards, not pushed, but kind of guided me towards the route of a social worker. And I thought that makes so much sense given the background and with family and things like that. So that was what kind of kickstarted my journey into social work. From a management perspective, I'll be so honest, I didn't want to go into management. I was quite content kind of being the social worker who was allocated cases, and he was, going out and doing all those bits and pieces. I never really saw myself in the management role. It wasn't until like the managers that I had at the time kind of really speaking to me and saying, we can see something within you, like we can see qualities, we can see skills within you, that is that of a manager. And again, that really sort of helped shape me in terms of, okay, maybe this is a role that I need to go down, and maybe this is a path that I need to go down. And going down that path kind of, again, just opened up doors for me in a sense of how much I love helping people. So I kind of have gone from like helping children and families, because that's the area that I'm in, to now helping like social workers and newly qualified social workers and family support workers and just people in general. And I guess I love that about management. So yeah, that's my journey.
Anita?
I think for me, quite a similar experience to yourself, Yolande. I've got an older sister who's got autism, and she had social workers in and out over the years as we were growing up. So I had a bit of an idea of what a social worker was at the time. And I always had compassion towards people who had disabilities, because my sister had a disability. And I always wanted to help, and I always wanted to support people. And I think that was something that was identified quite early on in my childhood, and into adolescence. I was always there to help, whether it would be family or friends. And then I did a law degree initially, but that was quite a tough profession to kind of break into. And so I sort of found myself sort of at a crossroads, kind of thinking, okay, what do I do? What do I want to do? And sort of brainstorming and thinking, okay, I like to help, I like to care, like I care for people and stuff like that. So, okay, let me look into social work, given that I know a bit about it. And yeah, I kind of just went straight in, and yeah, been a social worker for how many years now. And I feel like that is a career and profession that I was meant to be in, if I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
Like I really have a passion to support children and young people. And as cliche as it sounds, I really do want to help children and young people achieve positive outcomes, especially like children from ethnic minorities, children from black children, because I see, and we all see what they experience and the barriers that they face in this country. So I've been really passionate about supporting them. And in terms of coming into management, I did a practice educator course a couple of years in, and I found again that it came quite natural to me to kind of support, teach and supervise student social workers. And then that sort of led me, I think it was probably around when the pandemic kind of kicked off, and I kind of thought again, okay, I've been a social worker for some time now. What's the next step that I need to kind of go in, or the direction that I need to go in? So I thought, okay, management, let me see how I fare in that. And I also had a bit of encouragement from my managers and my supervisors at the time. And there's someone sitting next to me
Yes.
who was my manager
I can verify
a few
that.
years, more than a few years ago. And she sowed some very good seeds into me in my early years as a social worker. And that's something that I've always remembered. And again, so that just kind of helped and pushed me to just strive and just, you know, try and get to the next step in my career.
It's amazing.
So yeah, that's where I am now.
Andrew?
Yeah, I can be a testament to.
Yeah.
And I saw it in a very early. I was a manager when she was a student, and I said, "You're going to be a director one day." And I'm saying it on this platform now.
You speak
She's
it
going to
into
be a
existence.
director one day. But my journey started. I started working in a children's home when I was very young. I left school and I thought, like everybody else has said, and I think it's a theme in social work, you want to help. And wanting to help, working in the children's home, I saw many flaws in the decision making that was made about those children. And I was like, I need to be a part of the decision making. I need, this child shouldn't have this child should be here, blah, blah, blah. But it didn't quite work out that smoothly for me, because then I had my daughter, then I went on to working in various departments like the benefits agency as it was known before. I worked in housing, but I was always drawn back to social work. You have to do social work. And I remember being in university on my first kind of day, and there was 100 of us in the room, and the lady said, the lecturer said rather, the people you see here now, you're not going to see all of them at the end of the course, because for some of you it's your calling. And that really resonated with me. I felt it had been my calling. So my journey into social work was quite adventurous, and I think I've had a lot of luck and blessing from the fact that I've had good managers. I've always placed myself in diverse boroughs because that's where I wanted to get to the crux of social work. Unfortunately, I came into the profession a little bit naive with this, I want to help, and I found myself in like a few weeks in court testifying to remove a child, and that broke me. But I kept going, because then as the more momentum you pick up in the role and you see why you're doing what you're doing and it makes sense to you, you know that your role is valuable.
Absolutely,
And I kept going and going, and like everyone here said, my manager saw something in me. I did not want to be a manager. It took a year for me to say yes, at least. And I was like, no, I'm content. Just give me my cases. Let me just get on with doing what I'm doing. And then I think the difficulty came when you work in a borough where you live in the borough. It made sense for me to be a manager where I'm not seen and I'm behind the scenes. So then I kind of thought, you know what, maybe it's best I'm a manager. So that's my journey.
Just to say, Rob, just to add to what Andra has said, because Andra actually was my previous manager for about 2 years. And you know, she mentioned about the fact that it's important that you have good managers behind you. And I think when you are climbing up the ladder, you need that. You need people to be able to see a lot of potential in you. And I think I'm fortunate whereby Andrew was my manager when I was transitioning from senior to deputy and then going on to become a team manager. So I was very fortunate that I was able to have those conversations with Andrew both inside and outside of work. Very maternal, like I'll say it on camera. Andrew's my work mum. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, do you know what I mean? Even though I've left the local authority where I was at, we still talk a lot because I've really valued how she pushed me up. And one of the things I think, particularly in social work, is that particularly in management, obviously, you know, we're all black panel here of professionals that, you know, when you progress up, I mean, in the borough that myself and Anita and Andrew all worked in, predominantly everybody at the bottom is black.
Okay, right,
But there's a lot of black women in management, but there's not really a lot of black men. So for me, being a black man progressing up, unfortunately, I had a lot of support from Andrew and other black managers as well to be like, look, you can be the one to kind of progress up. So I think it's very important to say that, you know, part of progressing and being a manager is being able to have someone who could mentor you to go and say, actually, you know what, I see your potential. I am going to push you to progress up.
And, you know, I think that's quite important, you know, because, you know, I know a lot of social workers from a lot of different boroughs, and as we all know, different boroughs work differently from each other. You know, different guidelines, different procedures, different way of dealing with different I don't know, child in need or child protection or safeguarding issues. Some good, some bad, some a lot of red tape, some a lot of frustration. But how important is it to have a good manager? How important is it to have someone really invest in you to succeed? How important is that? I don't know, individually or as a role of a manager.
What do you call a good manager?
Well,
Because what's good to me may not be good to Yewande, Anita, Nana, yourself, or
all right, what are the tools in 2024? Because
for me, I will say this: as a manager interviewing social workers, I always look for potential.
Okay.
I don't want you to come to me with all these list of training that you've done, all these list of places you worked in. What's the fire in your belly? So because you're going to be out there on your own. I'm at my desk and I'm dealing with 4 or 5 other social workers. What's the fire in your belly saying? So don't come to me, you've done this training, that training. Yes, it's important, but I'm looking for potential. What's the potential this person has in front of me to deal with a crisis situation? Because I've always worked in child protection. So it's a constant putting out fires, crisis after crisis. That's who I want to see in front of me.
Definitely.
That's for me. And for me as a manager, that's what you should be looking for, the potential, the integrity of the person. Not just these list of training that they've done, because a lot of the time we get loads of CVs and it looks fantastic, and then you put them to go into a house and they haven't even called you to say the neglectful house, the neglect. You know what I'm saying? And then you're like, well, you was there, and you've left.
How
Go on,
No, I was going to say, I completely agree. I think when I'm looking for people who are either joining our team or joining our organisation, kindness and compassion, like that has to be, you know, I can teach the policies and procedures. I can, you know, show you where the, you know, London safeguarding procedures are. But if there's not that intrinsic kindness and compassion and empathy for the parents that we work with, the children that we work with, then, you know, it's really, really difficult, I think. And being curious, you know, that curiosity, that coming through in terms of being able to ask questions, and as a manager in terms of the skills that, you know, that I think are really important, is about listening, is about kind of offering a space where staff can come and have those conversations with you. They can come and sort of want to sort of puzzle something out with you, or I'm not really too sure about this, what do you think about this, without feeling worried or scared. You know, I think that's really important, because then it fosters an environment where they feel able to be curious in their thinking. So not just thinking in one way, but kind of looking broadly at lots of different things that are happening, so that you can come up with different solutions to the problem, not just, well, this has happened, so we're going to do that.
No, I agree. I think as a manager, it's so important to be approachable, where your staff can come to you if they have questions or they've got issues or dilemmas and they need advice and support. I think you've got to be able to be approachable, you've got to be able to be relational as well, and I think that is just so key in building relationships with your team and keeping that cohesion with your team as well. And also being able to develop your staff as well.
That's right,
because again, like what you were saying, Andra, like they may not have everything on their CV, you know, but if you can see potential in them and they join your team, so as a manager, I think it's important that you're able to develop your staff, because I think sometimes what I've seen is that people are just like go every single day, and staff are not actually being developed in terms of their, you know, career as a social worker and where they want to go next. So I think it's important that as a manager that you're able to develop your staff and show that leadership, that, you know, you don't have to just do this. You can you can move on, or you can specialize. You can do whatever you want to do. So yeah, I think those are
It's
important.
true, and it's
qualities as
such
well.
a broad profession. It doesn't always be about child protection. There's different areas of social work that you can embed yourself in, and it's about finding what works for you, because as a manager sometimes you get these CVs, I want to do child protection, but if the skills don't match to, you know, what we face on a day to day, then it's a no.
Do you know, that's a very interesting point and valid point as well. So me and Nana have done quite a few visits to a couple of universities, and you know, we get a lot of feedback from a lot of university students, and one of the well, I wouldn't say complaints or frustration for a lot of university students is that they feel that they're not always taught or it's articulated in a way to make them feel safe about, being qualified and what's next, they still feel very much hesitant and anxious.
Yeah,
and I'm
you
not
do.
sure what I'm going to do. I'm not sure if I want to go, if I want to be a social worker in safeguarding, looked after team, probation, etc., etc., etc. So, what advice could you give to university students who are going to watch this and need advice and information? What tools can you give to them, or what advice would you give them in terms of their journey? Because there are seriously a lot of real anxious young social workers out there, and they're scared. They're scared.
I would be biased and say going to safeguarding first.
Okay.
I agree.
No, you never said that. You never said that.
No. I have said that. No, I would agree. No, I would agree.
Okay, yeah.
I agree. Go into safeguarding first.
Why is that?
Yeah.
For me, a safeguarding team, you're going to touch all
Everything.
aspects of social work.
Okay,
Yeah.
right,
You
okay.
will deal with families with disabilities.
Okay.
You will deal with mental health, substance misuse. You may even go into the court arena where you're progressing through looked after children,
Contextual
status,
safeguarding.
Section
Yeah.
20s
Everything.
and all of that. You will do everything.
Okay.
And out of doing all of that, you might think, okay, I'm going to specialise in just looked after children
That's
because
right,
I
yeah.
feel that
Okay.
that's where I fit,
Yeah.
or I'm going to go into fostering because
Yeah.
that's where I fit. There's many times in safeguarding that you remove children and put them into foster placements.
Right.
So for me, I would be biased. That's how I started, and it's been an amazing journey.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got so many stories. I've got so many, and it's so close to my heart.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to advise a student, that's what I would advise them, because if they go into something like fostering, no disrespect, they will not have the skills. They will be de-skilled
Yeah.
in terms of the child protection kind of element, because
Right.
you're looking at different risks.
Okay.
And then when they go into it, they won't be able to manage.
Yeah.
Yeah, they won't be able to cross over so
Yeah.
easily.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
into-
completely,
I agree.
completely agree.
Yeah.
I started in referral and assessment, and those basic foundation skills that you learn: assessment, analysis,
That's it,
Section
yeah.
47, threshold, strategy discussions. That's the bedrock of what we do.
That's
Building those relationships really, really quickly. Assessing those risks straight from as soon as you go into see a family, going into a school, working with professionals. I definitely think that is such an amazing place to start. And I know sometimes students can feel worried about challenging or speaking up to their practice educator, for example. But I would encourage any student, if they're in a different team, for example, doing their placement, ask, can they do a week in MASH?
Yeah.
Can they do a week
That's right.
in referral and
Yeah.
assessment?
Yeah.
And showing that initiative and asking that question. You might ask that question, your practice educator might say no, but that's something you could raise in your midway review, or you can raise with your university tutor that's supporting with your placement, because actually that's going to be a great space for you to make some of those connections, have some of those conversations, see what it's like to go
Network.
out, network, understand what a MASH team does in terms of practicality, understanding what that referral and assessment team does, rather than it just being kind of on paper or reading it in a book. So I would definitely, that would be my top tip for students in terms of ask to spend some time in another team. If you're on a 100-day placement, you're on a 70-day placement, you could do 5 days.
Can I ask a quick
Yeah.
question? I do apologize. Right?
No.
Is there like a Bible or a a booklet of so brand new social worker, this is the 9 to 5 or the Monday to Friday guideline of what you got to do,
Bro, you know there's no
or
booklet.
is it just
bro, you know.
See you later, yeah?
There's no booklet.
You know what? When I started out as a social worker, I remember my first week, my manager said, sink or swim, and I didn't
Okay.
understand
Yeah.
that until I started swimming.
Yeah.
But also, alongside the processes of going into different teams, I think I would like to see them going into children's homes and young semi-independent units where they see the lived experience of the child,
There
who
and
the
then.
decision is being made about,
Yeah.
because that's when social work will make sense to you.
Yeah.
So real social work is getting into those children's homes and you're listening to that child, what that child is saying about the services that they're getting, because sometimes, more often than not, it's negative.
Yeah.
That's very, very true.
That for me
Yeah.
is the bedrock of social work.
Definitely.
Get into the lived experience of the young person. What is their voice?
definitely.
You know,
And the
the-
participation services and
That's
sort of
it.
the sort
Yeah.
of children councils and those
Yeah.
sorts of things,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
You went there?
I think the difficulty is that, like, I've spoken to student social workers who've said that in the local authority that they're in, they don't have, I guess, the benefit of having like an ally and a manager or an ally in people in their team. And I guess it's in those situations, what then do they do? Because for some, they feel like they're really having to struggle through to the end of their ASYE, or there are even some that don't even make it all the way to the end because they're like, this is too much, I can't do it, I can't make it. And what I've always advocated for, as difficult as it sounds and as difficult as it is that you have to speak up about whatever experience you're going through.
Exactly.
And you have to make
Well
sure
done.
that you're really honest about it, because one, if you don't say anything, people are just going to assume that you're doing well, that you're okay. Two is that if you just sail through, or if you just about make it through your ASYE, at the end of that year when you're left in the deep end, you're going to really struggle because you've only just got it through your ASYE year. You haven't really learnt, you haven't really developed, you haven't really, I guess, utilised things as much as you could have done, because you haven't been able to kind of express what's going on. And I think that's again, it is really difficult because you're in an environment where you want to learn, you're in an environment where you want to pass. And I think that's the thing that's in every student's mind is pass, because that's what's instilled in you from you know, as early as you could do tests. You want to pass, you want to do well, you don't want to fail. And I think going back to the earlier question about kind of like managers and how they can improve, how, you know, what kind of managers are needed in those settings. I don't want a manager who is so far removed from practice that they don't see the struggles that we go through, or that practitioners go through on the ground. And that's not just from a social worker, that's not just from a manager social worker relationship, that's also from a manager senior management relationship as well. So for students, it's really important to be honest, and for managers, it's really important that you're not so far removed that just because you're sitting in that role and you're not doing frontline, and you're not kind of on the ground, that you are, it gives you kind of that authority to be able to you know, not really have any empathy or sympathy for people who are actually doing the work. So that's
I want to jump on the back of that, because I guess that kind of leads into discussion regarding performance, because I think as team managers, we've all been there whereby, like, on a weekly basis, the stats come out, the red report comes out, and the same social workers are coming out every single week. How do you as managers manage that? Because I think from my own experiences right now at the moment, in terms of, you know, managing my own team, one of the things my assistant director actually said to me recently, that sometimes a manager being helpful can also be too unhelpful, in the sense that at times with social workers, whereby as the manager, you go into those meetings and actually that social worker is regularly coming up with performance, or there's a quality and assurance alert, and you're always saying to senior management that it will get done, then it's not getting done, then you as the manager end up going and doing that visit. How do you manage performance whereby actually, you know, the buck stops with you, everyone will be looking at you, it's your team. How do you deal with underperforming social workers?
Hey, do you know what I'm laughing? Do you know why I'm laughing, right? Yeah. Do you know why I'm laughing?
Why?
Because I'm looking at their face, I'm thinking,
Because we're all thinking of that one person.
I'm thinking, I'm thinking,
but we gotta be honest. Because I'm just saying that, because when they mentioned about
That's true,
obviously the nature of the work, and we all get it, because you've all been there, that, you know, yes, the work is hard, it's tough. So like, you want senior management to be able to have that empathy, but at the same time, it's like you go into these meetings and it's like the same social worker's name comes up. How do you manage that and deal with that as a manager? I want to come to. I saw Andrew's face. I want to.
No, but I've just got to be real.
No, keep it real.
Social work can be a bit cutthroat,
Very much so.
and if that same person keeps coming up, is it I can't do or I won't do? So that's you as the manager's got to look at that worker and say, okay, what is the struggle here? Is this the right team for this person? Because there's no point in trying to push water up a hill, because what happens then is the
Can you say
family.
that again, please? No.
It's no point in pushing water up a hill.
Fire.
Because the people who are going to suffer the most is the children.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
The stats are a reflection of the work being completed. We can't run away from that. And if it's not there, children need to be seen. So that's why I said it can be cutthroat. And that's not to say, you go around sacking people. No, what you do is you take them down performance. Because if you don't take them down performance and you keep doing it, that person can give a week's notice if they're an agency worker, and you're left with all their 30 whatever cases, and you have to mop that up. And then give it to somebody else who's just walked through the door. Is that fair?
Yeah, not at all. Not at all.
Go on, Anita.
Yeah, sorry. As Andrea is speaking, I'm just thinking of different, circumstances where that has happened.
I'm thinking as well.
Yeah, and oftentimes there are like personal issues that social worker may be facing.
Yeah.
And again, I think that's why it's so key for social workers to speak up and say if there are things going on for them in their personal life that may be affecting their work life. And I think that's where supervision comes in as well, because you're discussing your cases there, and you're thinking about the complexity, because it could be that this case is too complex for that social worker and they're struggling to sort of manage it. So it may be about thinking about, do I need to look at reducing their caseload if I have the ability to do so? Sometimes that's not always possible. But looking at ways, I guess, to support them and finding out from them what additional support do you need to help you to improve with your performance. And I think if that is not working, then of course you're going to have to go through, the performance route, because I think at the end of the day, it's affecting the children that you're working with. It's affecting your your families that you're working with, and delaying, potential outcomes for these children, because we're thinking about, visits. We're thinking about assessments that oftentimes can be out of time scale. Report writing. I can think of so many examples where that's happened. And then that's delayed outcomes for children, or in fact, things have gotten worse for children because a social worker hasn't done what they've needed to do. So it can be very difficult, because again, I think as managers, we're trying to strike the balance between supporting our social workers, but then also to meeting the demands of the service. So, responding to senior management in terms of what they expect, but then also trying to support your social workers. It can be quite difficult. So it is a fine balance, I think. But I think if social workers are not really speaking out about what they may be finding difficult, then it kind of does force you into that going through performance.
And I do apologize for cutting in. Now for me, I work for youth offending, and I all right, there's 2 points I want to say, but I'm going to say the 1 point for now. There seems to be this stigma, or there's something in social work where you can't talk up or speak up. I don't know what it is. It's almost like there's like a scare tactic that you can't vocalize or say how you feel. I don't know whether, is it a management thing? Is it the local authority, or
it might be the local authority?
Is it just the culture? Or is it the culture of social work?
That's what I was going to say. I think it's a bit of. It can be the culture of social work in general, or that particular local authority that you're working in. Because I think if some social workers are struggling, it could be looked at. Oh, you're not able to do this. You can't manage this, that, and the other. And then in some places, it's because maybe their managers are not approachable and they feel that they can't speak to them.
But I feel that it's the profession, because there's an expectation that you are the expert, that you can manage all these complexities, and you're not allowed to burn out. You're not allowed to have that space where you're struggling, because it will be seen as a weakness, and your credibility as a social worker will be questioned. So it's all of those. So it is quite scary, and not to bring in my book, but that was one of the reasons why I spoke out.
So what's the name of the book?
Oh, I want to know what love is.
No, tell them again.
Huh?
Tell them again.
I want to know what love is.
And what's the name of the person who wrote it?
Andra Love.
That's it.
Coming to a store near you.
No, but it's just you know what? Life is always going to be lifing. And, I found that when I was going through what I was going through in my personal life, if the scare tactics would be, if you mention that in your professional life, what's going to happen is you could end up being struck off, you could end up not being employable, etc., even though you are the victim in that situation. So that's probably why I wrote the book, is to have a voice and to make changes in the profession where there is a safe space for social workers who are going through some of the challenges that we go through in life. But I do think that as a profession, other professions, they get the counselling, they get everything on
We don't
board.
get it.
Yeah.
But the amount of crisis that you deal with on your 20 caseloads, so to speak,
Yeah.
you're not getting that downtime.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to bed with still thinking about, oh, I've got to sign off this, I've got to sign off that, I've got to check out this, that. You're going on holiday and you're still
Thinking about,
there's no
So breaking
you don't
away
get to
from it.
switch the TV off.
Yeah.
No, you
is what I'm
don't.
saying. You don't get when you're a social worker. It takes over your life, and so you've got to really have those open and honest discussions with practitioners. Is this right for you?
Yeah.
Because that's when mistakes are going to happen.
Yeah.
And just to
Yeah.
add, Andrew, to what you're saying before you come to what you're saying about performance, it's difficult because you're right in the sense that you have to be able to have that balance. I think from my experiences, I find myself whereby actually at times I've kind of got the balance wrong, because in the sense that I'm trying to overcompensate for the team. Sometimes I end up going and doing visits, which, to be honest with you, I shouldn't be going and doing it. Andrew was my manager, and the only time Andrew went out on a visit with me was a high-profile case, which he came only one time. Barely any visits Andrew came out with me to go and do any visit. So the expectation was that it needs to get done. So sometimes it's like, the other side where I've got to put my manager's hat on with social workers is that your manager can't look stupid in that meeting when it comes to certain things, because you all know in a way what you signed up for. Do you know what I mean? That this is the expectation, these are the things that you have to do. And if it's not, what is happening? Is it the fact that you're not planning your work? Because your manager can only give you so much concession. It's something that I said to my team recently. I said, look, we're actually looking very, very stupid because I'm always giving you concession, but you're not giving me an answer for when I'm going to those performance meetings because your name's coming up. Yeah. So it's either I'm not putting my foot down on you, or I'm not managing you guys as a team. So I also think as well in terms of performance, that yes, as a manager, you have to have the balance right. But at the same time as well, where social workers know what expectations are, they have to the degree, make sure they can meet them, because most of us here have all been on the front line anyway. So we've been there. So I think, have the balance right, support your team, but also let them know that you need to arm me up when I'm going to those meetings. You know what I'm saying? So go on, Jay, sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, pretty much everything you just said I completely echo. I think we recognise as managers that social workers and the staff that we work with, they're our biggest resource. They're our biggest resource, and we want to pour into them in terms of them being able to give the best to their families that they're working with. And it's making in those conversations in supervision, and what does the support network look for that person outside of work, having those conversations with them in terms of who are they going to support, what does their work-life balance. I know it's a bit of a cliche, but when you're taking on all of the traumas of the people that you're working with, where are you going with that? Where's your outlet in terms of outside of work? It's not just work. And saying, we talk to staff about, not working on the weekend. We know it's really difficult, but that work is still going to be there on Monday morning. Yeah. You have got to fill up your cup. You can't just keep pouring till you're completely depleted. And then you can't be the best for your children and families, can you? So it's trying to, us as managers, creating that space and creating, I guess, that kind of permission for them to take rest and for them to stop and to kind of stop and reflect about how they're working best with their children and families. Because if you're going all the time and you don't ever have to stop, do you? So are you giving the best that you can if you're not able to stop and think and reflect or think in a slightly different way?
I'm gonna
go on you one day.
No, I think my point's gone.
All right.
For next time.
I'm going to challenge you all, because it's only right I challenge you. I mean, it wouldn't be right if I don't challenge you. All right, so I'm going to challenge you all now, okay? So I'm very big on making a difference. I'm very, very big on this, Is being a social worker, or is social work as a whole, is it actually making a difference? Because another thing as well, social worker has become very much paperwork based. We're not in university, we're not in our office now. This is a line of work where you're supposed to be making a difference to young people and families. As I said, I work very closely with a lot of social workers jointly. There are supposed to be a number of home visits. Yes, there's the protocol or the procedure of every 6 weeks, or it could be once a month or twice a week. But this is about making a real difference. So I'm asking you all, as a collective, in 2024, where cases are becoming more complex, we have more and more young people, unfortunately, passing away due to knife crime. There's a raise in child protection, safeguarding. Things are becoming extremely difficult for all parties in local authority now. But is social worker really making the difference that it's supposed to be? I don't know what you guys think of that.
I think how it's measured has changed. How you measure a difference, how you measure outcomes, how you measure change for families. So, you know, I think, again, going back to our earlier conversation about when we came into social work and what we hope to achieve, for me, I thought I was going to be going in and, you know, I don't know, like, the difference was going to be so remarkable, so like easily identifiable that it was going to be like, yes, I've gone in, and as I'm closing that door, everyone's like cheering behind closed doors because we've done good. And that's not to say that we don't have those success stories, but I think now how we manage positive outcomes is different. So in terms of for example, you know, we might have cases that we close and it's very subjective as to what did we actually achieve in that situation. From a school perspective, they might think we've gone in there and done nothing because that child is still, I don't know, still not coming to school, or that child is still in an environment where things aren't perfect. But for us, how we've measured that this is safe to close, or that this is good enough to close, is the fact that, okay, that child is not coming to school, but we still know that they're not going missing as often, or that parents now know that they're at home, or that you know, mum is getting support from her family. So again, how we measure it is different. We can't mold perfect families, because no family is perfect, no two families is perfect. And I think also how we view perfection, but also how we view good enough is different. Is again very subjective. What is good enough for one family may not be good enough for another. What may be good today may not be good tomorrow. And I've always been a firm believer that if I see that family over and over and over again, sometimes that's part of people's journeys. If you fall, I'm there to pick you up, and you know, you're on your way again. And if you fall again, I'm there to pick you up again. Just because you've fallen doesn't mean that it's bad parenting, or that it's the worst parenting, or that child is suffering. It just means that in that moment, or in that season of that child's life, or in that family's life, they needed to have interventions. And it may be in a week's time the interventions have gone away, but as long as obviously there's no serious real harm to that child, something that's part of people's journeys. And so I think that's in answer to your question.
I think that's a good point. When you said is how is it measured? Because if you look at the categories of abuse, it doesn't include the contextual harm outside of the family.
No, it doesn't.
So whereas that's on the rise, it's not always about the parenting. It's the outside influences.
Beyond parents' house.
Beyond the parental control aspect. So I think that's why it's important that the skills match the role that you are doing, because you can have some excellent social workers, but they just can't manage the risk factors. They can't assess the risk, and that's where it starts to slip. So I think, like, I've worked in a tough borough where I just don't think the complexities were matching with the skills of the staff, and that's not to say they're bad social workers.
But Andrew, it goes back to what you were saying in the beginning in terms of which team you should go into. You know, a lot of social workers who, I'm not saying it generically, so don't come for me, I'm just saying that there's a lot of social workers who may not have gone into safeguarding, as you said, find it very difficult when it comes to safeguarding, managing that risk. They don't know how to manage that risk or make a decision that they'll be able to rationalize. So I definitely feel, you know, take what Andrew is saying, that, you know, if you are coming in, be very, very clear in terms of the kind of teams you're going to go into, and knowing that if I'm in fostering, can I transition to child protection? Or if I'm in youth offending, can I do looked after children? Or if I'm looked after, can I do referral and assessment? Because you actually need to find your actual skill set, because it will set you up for how you work as a social worker and how you're going to be able to progress if you seek to progress to come into management.
And being realistic about the realities of the job that we're in and what we're going to be able to effectively achieve within the timescales that we have, with the tools that we have. Like tools is the biggest thing that I think a lot of local authorities are struggling with, is they just don't have the tools to be able to do the work as effective as they can do. So you have to be realistic that you might not achieve 100%. So, and that's okay. And I think we also need to have that acceptance within us that's okay. Because I think for like very early on in my career, I used to beat myself up about the fact that I've closed this family and they've come back again. Like, what have I done wrong? What have I done wrong? Like, what has gone wrong here? And that doesn't mean that something's gone wrong here. It just means that something different has happened, or there's been a shift for that family. So just being realistic about social work.
I also think we have to be realistic around what managers have to work with, because it's always going to be about the resources in that borough. It makes a big difference, and I've worked across different boroughs, and I can say that one borough, if the child needs therapy, they'll just do it, even on the child in need. And then you've got another borough that no. It's only until it goes up into PLO, public law outline,
then you have to go to
it goes into court. You have
to go to panel twice to get it authorized.
This is what I'm saying. That's it. So for me, I think in making a difference, I think children are left at risk for far too long because of resources. So the difference that we're making on balance could be done sooner.
I was literally just thinking.
I was just gonna say in relation to your point earlier about how you measure the difference, because and this is where I think recording is really, really important as professionals, because for some children or families that we work with, your interaction with that child or young person could be giving them an example of an adult that cares about them and loves and cares about them and thinks that their voice is important. That isn't recorded on a KPI. That's not recorded on stats each week, but that is that could be the difference between that child feeling cared about by somebody or not feeling cared. And I think it's about so how we record that and how we then measure that difference and the difference that you have made with something that's not necessarily like quantifiable in terms of numbers, but for me that would be something that's much more important than some other aspects.
I want to ask you all something that actually impacts you as managers, and it frustrates me very highly, right? But the high turnover of social workers. I might have Timmy, and we've got Rebecca for 5 weeks. Rebecca's gone. What do you mean Rebecca's gone? Then it's George. George is there for 4 weeks. George is gone after 3 weeks. I'm like, what's going on here? And as we all said, it's the young person that suffers, or the family that suffers. How do you deal with that? You know, the high turnover of social workers that actually must impact you all as managers.
It does.
How do you deal with that? How do you feel about it? What are the solutions keeping them longer?
I mean, that's $1 million question.
People want to go. They want to go.
I think it's an individual.
We say that. I mean, look, me and you worked in a case, a couple of cases, but it's not healthy.
No, it's not. I'm saying, but you can't stop a social worker from resigning. That's what I'm saying.
I think, but then I think there's signs for some. Because I think sometimes there's a culture of the workplace, and I think with certain social workers there are signs where you can start to see that they're getting burnt out, and actually they're probably in a few weeks' time or months' time they're going to hand in their notice. So again, I think it comes down to that.
You look at the CV.
Yeah. That's true, actually.
CV, sometimes 3 months there, 1 month there, 1 week there, and you're like, I'm not even going to interview.
But I think that's where, supervision comes into it, where you're meeting with your social workers regularly. I know that it's not always easy to have that time because there's so many competing demands. But I think it's important as managers that we make time for our social workers to meet with them, to talk to them about what's going on for them, how they're dealing with their cases, how they're feeling about it. And making them feel that they can ask for support again, taking their annual leave regularly, because again that comes into it, and their toil, and just recognizing their hard work as well, because I think a lot of social workers don't feel that their hard work is recognized or valued, and sometimes that's why they feel that they need to then move on to somewhere else. So I think we can't always prevent it, but I do know of situations where there's been some social workers who have wanted to leave, but we've had discussions and we've put things in place and they've actually stayed.
Yeah.
So there are ways to prevent it, but like Nana
Yeah.
said, there's some social workers who just will
They'll
go.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They'll go regardless.
They'll go, yeah. And it's not about. I mean, it's
not-
each to their own.
Yeah,
Sometimes
yeah.
If the local authority is not serving you,
Yeah.
then you need to leave.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? And I'll
Yeah.
say to every social worker that if you
Yeah.
want to go, you've got that choice to
Yeah.
go. Yes,
Because they've got to do what's right for them at the
definitely
end
what's
of
right
the
for
day.
you. Do you know what I'm saying? It's about your mental health,
exactly.
your family,
Yeah,
your setup. So it has to actually work work for you. But we can't as a manager. I mean, there's sometimes you've tried to keep social workers and they still go. Sometimes you try and say to them, you know, do we need to bump up your pay? And something's like, no, it's not about the pay.
Yeah.
It's not suiting me at the moment.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
You know?
And I mean, thinking about the impact of it though, in terms of with our children, young people, and our families, I think it's something that we try to do as managers when we've got someone who has had multiple social workers. Is having that conversation with the new social worker who's been allocated and sort of saying, this is the situation. They've had, 2 or 3 social workers, so that they've got an understanding of what that experience may have been like for that child. So they're going in kind of forearmed with kind of, the information like, gosh, you've had this social worker, this social worker, and I'm number 5. And kind of so having that open discussion with the child or young person, because I think sometimes I imagine it feels like for them it's just a conveyor belt, and we haven't even acknowledged we've not acknowledged the kind of the grief and loss really of having a relationship with someone who knows lots of things about you and your family that people probably closest to them don't know, and then someone else is coming in and we're having to have those conversations again. So quite often I'll say to staff member, you don't necessarily have to have all of those conversations about everything from the beginning, because that might not be what's best for that child or young person, and kind of going in forearmed with that information kind of helps you build a better relationship with that child or young person, but acknowledging their experience within the system as well.
And go back to what I said earlier about not being a manager who's so far removed, because if you are then that consistent person in that child and family's life, what's stopping you then from going with the new social worker or picking up the phone and saying, look, I'm so sorry to say that this has happened again. I'm still here. The social worker might not be here. I'm still here. And how can we, for this new person who's coming in, how can we make sure that this is going to be something that's going to work for your family? And sometimes even just picking up the phone, when there's been issues with like families and social workers for whatever reason, it's being proactive in that situation then, not just for the social worker but also for the family, of trying to mediate like what's gone on here, because sometimes it's a misunderstanding, sometimes it's a something was misinterpreted one way and that relationship can still continue, but in a scenario where the social worker has actually left, it's about really drawing on who is still that consistent person for that family, so that they don't, as much as we can't help the fact that social work is a high turnover profession, actually there are still people who care enough and who will still be there, and who will still see your family through to the end of whatever this intervention or this phase is in their life. So
I've got one final question.
Yeah, me as well after. I've got another challenging question.
So the question that I've got is, being a black woman in social work, being a leader, what does it mean to you? I want to start with Andrew.
It means a lot, to be honest with you, because when I think about when I started out, probably years before you guys, there wasn't that many black female managers in senior management. It was always the middle management, and then it stopped. There's been improvements, and I can say that my experience has been a brilliant one. I've always had good service managers, and I've always felt fully supported. But that doesn't take away the fact that that's not the story for everyone.
And
it doesn't mean that because I've had a good experience, I can ignore everything else that's gone on in other boroughs and etc. But for me, it means that social workers or newly qualified social workers that come and see me as a black woman, they have that hope that they can also elevate into that kind of role. So that's what it means to me.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
I love that.
Amazing.
Anita?
I would 100% agree with what Andrew has said. For me, I think it's a statement as well that yes, you can be a manager, you can excel, you can move up the ladder as a social worker. I think a lot of like in my experience, a lot of people have seen me and they've kind of like, oh, you're a manager, and it's like, okay, why didn't you expect me to be a manager? It's not always explicit, but you can tell by the response that some people have when I say who I am in a meeting, for example.
Is that a stereotype? Is it?
I think it probably is.
Yeah, is it that?
I think it's a stereotype. And young as well.
You're young and you're black as well.
Yeah. We had a manager who was very young. You know, my service manager at the time was like 26, 28.
Yeah.
And it was
same
same
service.
kind of
Yeah,
scenario.
Same scenario.
I mean, you think that we would have moved on in 2024 because you
Yeah.
called the year out.
Yeah.
But last week, when I turned up at a meeting, I was asked if I was the interpreter.
Oh,
I've had interesting
and
experiences like that.
I'm not going to tell you the country where the person came from. It's impossible that I would have been the, not impossible, but it's unlikely that I would have been the interpreter. But these is still happening. It's still happening. When you turn up to meetings with your counterpart, they're looking at them as the manager and not you. I've gone to court and solicitors have spoken to the social worker who happens to be white as the manager. No, it's me. It's still happening.
It's still happening.
So there are the challenges.
Like I've had a very similar experience. I went to a probation office for a meeting. They thought I was the young person, and I was just like, no, I'm the manager. So there's a lot of like stereotypes as a black young woman. So for me, it's a statement, and it's saying to young black women coming up that again, you can be a manager, you can excel. And don't think that there is that glass ceiling. You can push through it. So yeah, it's just being an example to others.
And even Anita, when you progress, remember I said to you that should have happened years ago. Years ago. I was telling you, when Anita became a team, I was like, years ago should have happened. Years ago.
But do you find that you're always defending yourself?
100%. I feel like I've had to work twice as hard to just prove myself. And I've had these conversations with other managers and black social workers, because in my current place of work we have a like black workers group, and there's a lot of people having the same experiences as black workers.
In big 2024,
and just feeling that, you know, we have to work twice as hard to prove ourselves. And it shouldn't actually be that way. And when you think of what our profession is supposed to represent, like, you know, anti-oppressive, anti-discriminatory, within the workplace, you're still seeing that. And that's something that needs to change, to be honest.
One day?
Yeah.
Because you did a big piece in community care.
I did, I did. No, I pretty much echo what the ladies have said already. I think for me, it was about just breaking that stereotype, really. Like, I'm young, I'm black, I'm a woman, like all these different factors that when you think of social worker or when you think of manager, like who is the first person that comes to mind? And it's not going to be me. So it's always been about representation for me. It's always about being someone who can kind of break the mold. It's always been about someone who doesn't need to kind of feel that they need to conform to fit into a certain box. You know, if I want to come into work one day and I'm wearing a blazer, then I'll go in and I'm wearing a blazer. But if I want to go in the next day and I'm wearing jeans, then I'll go in and I'll still be the team manager, or I'll still be the manager, or I'll still be the person who's chairing that meeting. It doesn't deflect from who I am, what my skills are. So it's just always been really important to make sure that I shake things up a little bit.
I mean, I agree with absolutely everything everyone has said. For me, there's not many people in management where I work that look like me, so that can be quite interesting in terms of, but making sure that there's a seat in the room for me and I'm at the table. I think that's really important. I think challenging the narratives around aggressive versus assertive, and you know, even sort of being the voice saying, I am aggressive for the children and families that we work with, because their voice needs to be heard in this room, because they're not here. So I think, you know, and letting them know that their voice is heard, and kind of being able to have those relationships with them, those positive relationships with staff, with sort of students that are coming up, and letting them feel like they've got a voice as well.
It's amazing, man. Amazing. Well, I think we should end it there.
Yeah,
but I just want to ask one quick question.
Go.
So obviously Nana's my brother, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I probably know about 10 male social workers, but I find social work to be a very female orientated industry. I know there's nurturing and love, and in that aspect, that's what I love about it. That, you know, that there are loads of females, and because I do feel in that line of work there does need to be nurturing and love, and you know, men and women. Obviously, we think a little bit different, and sometimes, but where are the guys? Where's the men? I don't.
They're in senior management.
Where are they?
Well, I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
I'm not there.
Yeah, I mean,
But
we
you're
have
right,
3
though,
men
but
in
you're
our
a senior
No,
management.
they
I
don't
don't
stay
see-
on the
I don't
front
see a
line
lot.
long.
They
They
don't.
don't stay on the
Mm,
front
they
line
move
long.
up.
No,
They
but
move up very quickly.
and they are encouraged to move up very quickly.
Yeah.
Okay.
But on the ground, there are very few
Yeah, it's not a lot.
male social workers around, and to be honest, we need them.
Yeah.
Like when you think about contextual safeguarding, CCE, CSC,
Yeah, you need
a lot of these boys that we work with, if they had a male social worker,
It's true.
I mean, I'm not being stereotypical, but they're more likely,
No,
and we've seen
yeah,
it, they're more
it's
likely
true.
to open up
Open up is true.
and
Yeah,
share what's going on for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Whereas with a female social worker, it can often be a bit more
Yeah,
sort
yeah.
of difficult.
Nah.
But I
Yeah.
do think there's a need for more male social workers.
Definitely.
So can I ask you the question then?
Yes.
Why haven't you done?
He
social
don't
work?
want to do it.
You know what I mean?
I've been
Yeah.
asking him.
Kind of both of you.
Yeah, be honest.
You don't, bro. You don't want to do social work. It's fine.
Okay,
You don't
right.
want to do. Just say you don't want to do it.
No, I'm gonna be honest with you.
I'll
so-
bet you what you said told me in it. I don't want to do the paperwork. I don't need it. It's too much stress. You don't want to do it. It's fine.
No, it's not even that. All right, so I actually got offered a better opportunity. So in the year when I got offered to do the training course, the local authority was gonna pay for it for me. I actually got offered a better offer. And that's in terms of opportunities, money, everything. No, very, very quickly, right? Yeah. But then, as I said before, I work with loads of social workers on a daily and weekly basis, right? Yeah. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. For me personally, individually, it doesn't attract me. It's not attractive in terms of the workload and the pay. And I'm just thinking, wow, there's a lot of stress here. It's a lot of paperwork. But then, as I said before, I'm about making real change in it and real boss moves.
So
And
do you think social workers don't make real change?
do you know?
Yeah, ask him.
Okay. All right, I'm going to be honest with you. All right, so I'm coming from a youth offending point of view. Okay, so remember, I do frontline. I go court cases, home visits, schools, prisons. Same as you guys, yeah. So we're very similar roles in what we do, right? Yeah. But if we're talking about in terms of liaising with the young people, making more of a difference, I probably feel that I would make more of a difference than you guys. I think you guys' paperwork is very much overpowering you doing the frontline work.
To some degree.
And I'm just being honest. It's no shade. It's no shade.
no,
I'm
no, no,
just-
I hear that.
I'm just keeping it
That
real.
is the role.
Yeah.
We're
That's
the
supposed
role,
to be
yeah.
coordinating. We're
Yeah.
not always supposed to be doing the work.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
find the services that can
Yeah.
do
Yeah,
the
you
work.
absolutely
Team
can.
around
Make
the
the
child.
referrals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think what it is, and this is where it gets miscommunicated, maybe within local authorities and other departments.
Yeah.
People don't actually know the role of a social worker.
That's right.
And that's where it gets confusing. And this is where probably, them social workers, they haven't done that. Because you guys are always getting blamed.
Yeah, no.
And you shouldn't be. I know that. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
Yeah.
That's our
Basically, you don't want to do it. But listen, in terms of men,
Yeah,
all
yeah.
I'm saying right here, right now, I'm here.
Yeah, man, listen.
I'm here.
Listen,
I'm here.
Like,
And I'm going to
you're
be the
needed.
rector.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what's happening.
Yeah,
No,
that's it.
That's
Yeah,
what I'm
yeah.
going to do. I'm gonna be the
I know you
We're
are.
clapping for
I
you
know
in
you are.
advance.
That's it.
Thank you.
He
Thank
is.
you.
But guys, listen, you guys have been absolutely amazing.
Honestly,
Thank you so much.
This has been a powerful
been amazing,
panel.
yeah.
Our first panel of black managers. For me, I'm inspired.
Yeah. So
I'm
am I,
very,
man.
I'm very, very
So am
inspired,
I.
So, no, honestly, thank you so much, all of you, for
Yeah.
coming on today as the
Thanks for
panel.
having us.
I want to thank my previous manager, my work mum for coming on.
Mm.
I want to thank Nita for coming on.
Yep.
Wande and Jade, thank you for
Yeah,
coming
yeah.
honestly.
And once again, tell us about the book and where
Yeah,
we
the
can find the book.
book,
When's it
yeah.
coming out?
Yeah. No, it's come out already.
Okay,
So you
yeah.
can get it on Amazon. It's
Okay.
called I Want to Know What Love Is. It's about helping women to kind of change the narrative of their love journey.
Okay.
So to break in unhealthy patterns, unhealthy cycles, and all of that goes on, as I said before, when life is still
Amazing.
life in. And it's really it's a book of hope, affirmations, and love.
Oh, amazing. So we'll make sure we'll have that on
Make sure
screen.
you
Yeah,
upload
yeah,
that,
yeah.
yeah.
And guys, where can they find you?
Yeah.
If you want to be found.
Yeah. Need something to be found?
No, not
Okay,
so.
but no, you're right. Then, listen, where we're gonna find you, innit?
Oh, I could be found on Instagram, YouTube, Young Black Social Worker.
Can you say that a bit louder, please? Yeah.
I can be found on Instagram, YouTube, Young Black Social Worker. I have a platform for social workers. I have done for a number of years now, where I talk about all things social work, talk about my experiences. It's been as a newly qualified social worker, as a social worker, as a manager, and yeah, it's just
amazing.
great
Jay,
platform,
you
really.
want to be found, yeah? Okay.
Sorry, but I can be found on Instagram as well.
Oh,
I
yeah.
didn't say, did I? Sorry.
You never said that before.
Yes, I've got a website, andralove.com. I'm on Instagram, AndraLove Inc. and Facebook, AndraLove Inc. and TikTok.
Amazing.
Hey.
Amazing.
Follow.
But guys, you know where to find us. You like, subscribe, and you share. We'll see you back again for another episode of Panel.